Well, I wonder if you can answer this question. A married man had reached the age that is the square of some number. The product of the digits of his age is his wife's age. The age of their daughter is the sum of the digits of the mother's age. How old are they? I'm asking because I have absolutely no clue. I don't like math. Math does not like me. No matter how much time I spend trying to figure it out, no matter how much time I rehearse the algebraic equations and principles and functions and rules, I was never able to get it. Math, even to this day, it makes my head hurt. It makes me frustrated. It makes me confused. And I'm completely lost with it. And so it got to the point through school that in grade 11, I couldn't muscle my way through it anymore. I couldn't fake it. I was completely lost. And so I needed to go to a tutor. I needed to have somebody beside me to walk with me through the nitty and gritty of the problems that I was trying to solve as fast as I could go or as slow as I needed in order for me to solve those things. Sometimes our life of faith can feel very much like an algebra equation. Something that gets complicated, something that gets confused. And even though we think that we might know the principles, we may know the rules, we end up feeling lost and getting frustrated. Moses, in our first reading, voices some of those things. We hear that frustration and that confusion that comes from him as he is tasked to lead Israel to the promised land. Moses says, "You've told me to lead the people, you've told me this, you told me that," but what he really needs is God's presence with him. And God responds. In doing so, we are encouraged to know that God does not stand removed from us, that his presence goes with us. And in the nitty-gritty of life, when we feel totally lost, God's presence is revealed. So I invite you to pick up your pew Bibles and turn to the book of Exodus, chapter 33. Exodus is the second book of the Old Testament, of the first part of your Bible. So you open your Bible and you get to Genesis. Right after that is Exodus chapter 33. This is one of the readings that we really need to know the context of this passage, what's kind of gone on before. This follows after the episode of the golden calf. And if you remember that story, while Moses is up on the mountain conversing with God and he's getting the 10 Commandments, which is the symbol of the relationship that Israel and God have kind of entered into. It's a symbol of the covenant. When Moses is up on the mountain, the people get impatient, they get frustrated, and they kind of act out. They kind of go a little bit crazy. So they make this calf. They throw their gold into the fire, and they make this calf, this golden calf. They call it their Lord. They actually say that this calf has led us out of Egypt. They sacrifice to it, and they get into all sorts of revelry and naughtiness. And so in response, Moses comes down from the mountain, and he smashes the 2 tablets. It's this profound symbol of how Israel had departed from their relationship, how they completely walked away from their covenant with God. He smashes the symbol of their relationship. And now, as Israel is faced with having to leave the mountain, and Moses is faced with having to lead these people away from the mountain, kind of the question that's concerning them all is, will God's presence go with them? Or will God just leave? Let me ask you, have you ever felt like that? Have you ever felt like you have messed up, that you've sinned in such a manner that God will just depart? That God will say to you in every sense of the word, "To hell with you. I'm out of here." It's easy to feel that way. I think it's easy to feel like that sometimes because sadly, we may have experienced that in many other areas of our life. That maybe for deserved reasons, maybe for undeserved reasons. Relationships have ended, friendships have ceased, ties have been broken because of actions done or actions not done. And it hurts, and it stings, and it leaves us with that impression sometimes that mistakes equals abandonment. And so we naturally and we understandably then attribute that same dynamic to God. If I mess up, God's out of here. In verse 12 of our reading, Moses says to God, "You've been telling me, lead these people, but you've not let me know whom you will send with me. You've said, I know you by name, and I have found favor with me." Now Moses is saying that, I've heard all these things, and I know all of these things. I know these things about you and about the call of faith, about my role in the world. But he's kind of saying, in this moment, it's not enough just to know the principles and just to know the rules. He says, "But if you are pleased with me, teach me your ways so that I may know you." And what Moses is asking for is not just a download of divine information. He's asking for God to come to him and to lead him through the ins and outs of guiding this ragtag nation of Israel to the land of promise. When Moses prays, "that I may know you," it means experience the intimate presence in the context of their life. Moses is asking for God's presence to join him. Because that is what we need when we face something that we find completely beyond our capability. When we're lost and confused and frustrated. In those times, we don't need another truth. We don't need another saying. We don't need another anecdote or another quote. What we need is the presence of God with us, to be beside us. We need a presence that will comfort us, a presence that will give us the ability to go forward. And so wonderfully, the Lord responds in verse 14. "My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest." God affirms his presence to Moses and for the people of Israel, that despite the manner in which they departed from the covenant, despite their glaring mistake, God acts in mercy, and he declares that his presence will remain with his people. Despite that sin of the golden calf, and if you think